Ladies and gentlemen, Geri Petito.
I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
When you don't know just what to do,
Just what to do, just what to do.
if what you're feeling is really true,
Is it really true? Is it really true?
just keep your ideas safe and sound.
Safe and sound, safe and sound.
That's exactly how change is found.
Change is found, change is found. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geri Petito Show. Everyone and anyone who knows me knows I am the author of I'm Not an Addict, I'm Just an Ass. I'd rather be a smartass than a dumbass. Because, guys, almost 34 years ago, I was a dumbass. But today, 34 years later, through the grace of God, I can honestly say now I'm a smartass. And yes, the word ass is in the Bible at least 40 times, and it means donkey, and that's what I was. I'm saying all that to say this. There are a lot of people out there struggling, even with health, addiction, recovery, right? A lot of people. I want everyone to know someone is listening. I'm a recovery coach. I'm a nutritional health coach. All my services to you are free. Please, please reach out. If you think my book can help someone, because I sure do, you can go right to Simon & Schuster's bookstore, Archway Publishing, BAM, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can go to my website, www.geripetito.com. And guys, my book is now on audio with my voice. My producer, Ruben Rodriguez of Hamilton Radio and Iron Horse Films, is now putting books to audio with your voice. Okay, Simon & Schuster wanted to do mine, and I was like, no way, it had to be my voice, not someone else's. So if you think my book can help someone, please order it and listen carefully. If you truly, truly, truly cannot afford my book, please reach out to me about that as well. I'm here to help you. Okay? And also subscribe to the Geri Petito Show YouTube channel. I have a really cool guest today, and he is here to inspire so many people. All right, so please really listen to everything he talks about. Marty Martin, say hello to everyone.
Hello, everybody,
How you
and thank
doing,
you, Gary.
Marty?
I'm fantabulous as
I
always.
love that. I love that. Um, okay, so why don't you start talking? You're an author. You've had a stroke. Your latest book, I believe, is it your latest book called Surviving the Stroke?
Yes, that's
Okay.
the latest one.
Okay.
So I already had a little background in writing. I've wrote a few, fiction books and a couple kids books and stuff. But anyway, I had a stroke, and during that experience, I thought, there was some. I thought there was things missing resource-wise, as far as, hey, what's going to happen next week?
Okay.
So that's what gave me the idea of writing a book about it, kind of more of a guide book, but I inserted my own experience at the same time. So.
So why don't you tell us about the book and tell us about the stroke and surviving it and why you decided it was time for that book?
Well, the stroke itself, I got to meet a lot of people during in rehab and everything. I was in outpatient rehab for like 10 months, so I got to meet a lot of stroke victims there.
Okay.
We all had the same story, but each one was different. Everybody has a different story as what happened. Some people wake up in the hospital. Some people, they're driving down the highway and it happens. And in my case, I was finishing up in the bathroom, and my leg gave out. I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" So, I didn't have typical symptoms of getting dizzy or passing out or anything like that. I just didn't know what was going on.
Okay.
And I did a couple of dumb moments later. I say, okay, hindsight, duh, you're having a stroke. But so the leg gave out. Threw my hands up in the sink to catch myself, and then I tried to move again, and the leg still gave out, and then the arm gave out, and I said, "Oh, okay, something's going on here." And it still didn't occur that, oh, I'm having a stroke. So I hopped out of the bathroom into my office area, plopped down on my chair, and then okay, something's feeling weird. So that's a surreal feeling, whatever you want to call it. And so I struggled to get the phone. Phone fell on the carpet down the floor. Hindsight moment, as I could have yelled out to my wife in the other room
Why didn't you, Marty?
because I had the awareness at the
Okay,
time.
okay, okay. Well,
I mean,
okay,
that's one of those dull things I thought of later.
okay.
And so I'm trying to get the phone in. We had a new puppy at the time. She was like 9 months old, little gray, blue-eyed gray Boston Terrier. Started licking my hand. So that thing about animals know things or
Yes.
dogs or I thought,
Yeah.
that was a hindsight thing too. It's like, okay, so she get my attention from like passing out. I felt it, finally got the phone, called my wife, and she instinctively knew something was wrong because here it's 10:30 at night and she's already been in bed 3 hours. I don't call her. I go, I check on her, like couples do, but I don't call her when I'm in the next room. But she answered the phone with a what's wrong, you know, and all I did is say I need help, and and by the time I had that last word out, I heard the door open, and she didn't say anything. She knew by looking at me what was going on. I heard her on the phone like 10 seconds later with 911 operator, and so this is where everything's like I'm fully aware, or at least I thought I was, fully aware. But I heard her talking, and then like a minute or two later, I heard these voices. She's yelling, "Come in, doors open!" It's the ambulance crew. And in my mind, it was like a minute, 2 minutes later, like they got there. It's like, wow, that's pretty amazing. And I went and I checked later on to find out how much. When I started doing the book, I checked to see how much time it really did take them to get there, and it was like 3 minutes 58 seconds, and they got it down to milliseconds.
Gotcha.
But so that was a big help there, because the longer it takes to get help, the more damage you can have. So I off to the hospital. So I was in ICU. I was in ICU. Of course, somewhere along the way, I passed out because I remember hearing my wife's voice talking to the doctor. So that was the next memory I had after getting rolled out of the apartment. And she told me later that I scared her to death because when I heard her voice, I yelled out, "Mummy," but it was like a zombie. If you can imagine, like the monster movies and stuff, when you got
Sure.
zombies going, "Oh, mummy."
Yeah.
That's what I did, and so that kind of scared her. But hindsight, we laugh at it,
Okay.
and so from there went to so there they sent me to a rehab. So I was in the ICU a week, which is a little long. So my stroke is kind of classified more severe. People have mini strokes, or mild strokes. So I was in for a week ICU. They sent me to a rehab hospital, which is 3 weeks. And so that was where they get you. They try to get you up on your feet or get things going. And the immediate realization in the ICU, even when you wake up the first time, is okay. You've had a stroke. What does that mean? Well, for me, I knew, okay, I don't feel my arm or my leg, my left side. Most are left side, but some have right side too. So I don't feel my arm and leg, and okay, can't move it, can't feel it. You know, um, so that's the first reality. Some stroke victims have vision issues, where their sight might be blurred. I mean, mine was pretty much okay. I would find out later it was a little affected with bright lights and stuff, um, but that was the initial thing of that realization. Okay, you've had a stroke. What's going on? And I should probably back up because now I'm remembering while I was in my chair back at the apartment, you know, trying to get the phone, I'm simultaneously starting this conversation with God.
Okay.
That's why part of the title of the book where I put a minute with God, because but it took me a minute to get that phone, and during that minute, I'm doing three things at once. I'm focusing on staying awake, stay awake, and get the phone, and talking to God about, hey, well, I'm not ready. It's not time. And plus, family. Because my concern, I mentioned in the book a thing about you have like people run into buildings on fire. Firefighters.
Yeah.
They run into danger,
Yeah.
and no regard for themselves. And that's, I think, in my case, my mind switched from myself to my family. I mean, of course, nobody wants to die, but it wasn't about dying. It was about what about my family? My wife, my kids, my grandkids. I have a very unique relationship with my grandkids. I mean, they were still little guys. I even did my children's book series on them. Adventures. That we do together. So backing up that. So yeah, I did have that conversation there, and so that's the faith thing. I
Yep.
think was a big help in the whole process because I'm laying in the hospital ICU. When I wake up, it's like, okay, I know different people have different reactions when you realize, okay, that's what's happened. Um, I I guess it would be accepted it. I mean, okay, this has happened. There's a purpose. And a few months later, at home, I decided the purpose. I was talking. We were talking. I said, all the stuff I'm learning doing the outpatient rehab, meeting all these other stroke victims, plus the questions we had as each day went by is, hey, what's going to happen next week? What are we going to do? And that's where I kind of had that thing of, well, I know how to write a book. Maybe I could write a book about this, about, okay, what to expect next, the things you don't know about. And I mean, all the medical people are great at telling all the stuff you need to know, but there's still that personal thing. Somebody who's actually been through the process, they know what you're going through, and they know what you're going to have to go through in the future.
Right.
So that was that part there. So, but yeah, we're at a table, and I said, I know it's silly to say this, but having a stroke has given me another purpose in life. Is maybe I can help other people just by sharing the experience, sharing what to expect and how to approach it. Especially with the attitude. That was a common thing with in rehab about attitude. Everybody had that same opinion. Attitude is everything. A bad attitude is more debilitating than the actual physical. So, so that's where the writing book part came in. And
So, okay, I have a question for you. So, are they able to even tell stroke victims why they had a stroke?
yes and no.
Okay.
Uh, and disclaimer: perfectly healthy people have strokes.
Yep. Okay.
I, I mentioned that in the book. I say, but uh, a common denominator is, of course, older people, but young people have them too.
Yep.
Yeah. I mentioned in the book about like celebrities like Halle Berry and your yeah, Bieber's wife, uh, Justin Bieber.
Oh, I
She
didn't
had
know
a
that.
mini stroke. I mean, young person, so they do
Okay.
have them, but mostly it's older people. And in my case, so even though I was an army guy and fit and all that stuff, I turned that switch off. A lot of people who get older, they turn a switch off in their head and they stop being active. So me, I gained weight, got diabetics. I was on medicine for diabetic.
Okay.
I had blood pressure. I wasn't on medicine for blood pressure, but those are the common things. Obesity, blood pressure, diabetes are the common factors that contribute to strokes. Because the first question is each doctor I saw for that first week, every time I saw a new doctor, he'd say, so are you diabetic? Do you got high blood pressure? Yes, yes, yes. You know, and I was like 270 pounds at the time.
Okay.
Now, since then, I've lost 70 pounds, but, and I lost that 70 pounds within that 2 month period. So for me, everything changed. I mean, it was like a forced diet,
Okay.
but at the same time, it didn't bother me. So I think the mindset is a big thing. But as far as common, people who have strokes, those are the common denominators. And again, I say healthy people have strokes too, I mean, but that's the common thing. So I tell people, if you're listening to me or you read the book and you happen to be one of these people, you're in your 50s and you've gained a bunch of weight and you're diabetic and you need to change, because strokes don't discriminate.
What did it do to you physically?
So physically, Left side paralysis. So, so including even on the face, and so even being able to chew was kind of difficult. It took, but exercise, which is chewing for the the face part, that's exercise. But the arm and the leg, left side, I would even figure out a month or two later that it wasn't just the arm and leg; it was the whole left side. I didn't even realize it till later on when something on my side, and I was like, oh, I don't even feel that.
Okay.
The t- um, the loss of touch sensation. So most stroke victims, once you've had the stroke, they send to get you stabilized, okay, you're ready to go on to the next step, which is like the rehab hospital where they gonna working on your occupational and physical therapy type stuff, speech therapy. They work on these things to get more movement in the arm and leg. So that's what they're working on initially, as far as the physical uh, things that happen. You can't move your arm. See, now I can move my left arm. I can do that, but even a thing like shrugging your shoulders, you can't even shrug your shoulder. And like the first night they put your feet or your legs and your arm under pillows to keep them elevated so they don't fall out of bed. Things like that.
Wow. Okay.
So it's an adjustment. But those are the physical things, and then over time, depending on severity, I was severe and it took longer time for me than others, but still, over time, I was able to start shrug. The first movement would have been the shrugging of the shoulder, because the therapist will say, okay, let's do some shrugging exercises, and then to do other things, and getting your leg and your foot to work. You know, I would lay in bed at night in ICU, and then in the rehab hospital, I would work on move my foot back and up and down like that. Because at first you can't do nothing with it; it's just there. Now, then when I look down, I realize, oh, it's not moving. It's you think it's moving, but repetition, even though it was in my head, eventually within a few days, I was able to get the foot to go up and down like that. So there was progress, and I call in the books. I say it's little things. Little things are progress. A little thing like being able to move your pinky like that. That's a little thing, but it's a big thing too because you couldn't do that yesterday.
Mm.
Same thing with the foot, being able to just lift it up a little bit. You know,
Oh, huh.
bend your knee. You can't. So it takes weeks, months, depending on the severity.
So let me ask you something now. What are the overall effects today that stayed with you?
Okay, overall,
Challenges.
there's still the paralysis, but not completely. Like I'm in a wheelchair sitting here, but I can get up and with a cane, I can get up and walk to the
Oh,
bathroom and
okay.
walk out into the living room.
Okay, good.
So now what I've noticed in rehab, again, 10 months there, so I got to see a lot of people come and go.
Okay.
Some people would, everybody came in wheelchairs mostly, but several within 3, 4 months would be walking out. I walked out. I mean, I walked out slowly, but some people would be walking a little almost normal walk. What I call normal
Yeah.
pace walking. Some with limps. It just depends. But as far so it can be permanent, or it could be gradual progression. Some people, you have setbacks too. You might have some setbacks where you did great and all of a sudden something happened. There's a there's a medical term called spasticity that stroke victims have. So the arms and legs, the muscles and the joints, the ligaments tighten. So it causes and you may see somebody when you're out one day where they're walking, but you notice that one of their hands is like up in their stomach, and they're or the hand might be curved down or something. That's from spasticity. So there's meds they give you for that, and if the meds don't work, then there's just exercise to combat that, every day. So the other thing is, if you weren't into physical activity before stroke, you should be after the stroke because that combats the spasticity. You have to do it every day. if you stop and you don't do it every day, that spasticity will get worse, and your arm or your leg will tighten up more and gives you a problem. There's also the heavy leg or heavy arm syndrome, where you feel like I say it feels like you're carrying a toddler on your back. A little toddler is jumping up there, and
Mhm.
because like in my case, like the left arm is heavy, which interferes with the walking sometimes. Again, exercise. That's something that the therapist will tell you. You got to exercise every day, because the spasticity may never go away. And so a daily routine helps that. Um, so as far as other negative things, not being able to do everything you used to be able to do, you can't jump up and run out to the car and run to the store. But I had an ingenious family because where we live is an apartment complex, and and it's not handicap capable, not handicap accessible, so to speak.
Okay.
So it's a regular apartment. So one of the obstacles is out front. There's a step, and it's not a normal, curb step like street to sidewalk is a 6 inch or something like that. This thing's like 18 inches almost. This
Wow.
giant step. So it's like, okay, how are we going to navigate that? And they say, oh, we'll get a portable ramp. That way we can do the wheelchair up and down. Okay, and that worked for a while. They got the portable ramp, and we did that. Same thing with the curb. But, the other thing is you have to eventually get to where you can navigate that, though, even with a cane. So,
Do you have a parking spot in front for you at least
yeah, we
now?
have a parking spot, so we're
Okay.
good there. We got the handicap placard
Good.
for it and
Okay, good,
everything.
good,
So the
good. All right,
apartment
good.
complex our place gave us that. So that worked out. So we got our own parking space, but
Good.
still got to be able to navigate and walk things, up and
Yeah.
down steps and what. And so that could be an obstacle, a hindrance. Takes you slower amount of time to get someplace, you know. But at the same time, you can walk short. Like in my case, I can walk short distances, and so that part. And okay, the arm and hand. So one of the things I do is I teach college courses online. Okay, so that's something I was doing at the time. And so when I was in the hospital and I got my laptop because I told the doctor, he came in one morning, he saw me on the laptop. That's just like a week later, I guess, after the stroke. And he looked at me, he said, "What you doing?" And I told him I was doing some school stuff. And he gave me a little one of those twisted head looks. I don't have an off switch. That's just me. So I gotta keep busy. And he actually complimented me. He said, "Yeah, you got to do that.
Oh.
Whatever it is, keep the brain busy. That's important. They call it the cognitive. Cognitive.
Mhm.
Yeah, I call it cognitive. Keep the brain busy is important. So I was doing that. But one of the things I noticed is, okay, my left arm ain't working. So typing is an issue. One-handed typing, I can't type like I used to. And then I discovered speech to voice technology in Microsoft Word. It's like, huh. So that was a big tool for me because okay, so I would record. I would just use the speech to text mode, give feedback to a student. But it was a big tool. And I mentioned that in the book too about how it taught me how bad my speech was at the time. You know, first time I replayed one of them, I was like, okay, it's not coming out on paper right. And at the same time, I could hear myself, okay, and I'm babbling, rambling, or whatever you want to call it. I had a good sense of humor about it, but it was a good teaching tool as to how bad my voice was at the time. So that's another thing. So not being able to type like I used to with both hands.
Wow. Okay.
You know. So yeah, that's it. So those are and then with the because like I said, my grandkids, my grandboys are little ones. We got a new grandgirl now. She's a year old, but not being able to do the stuff I was doing with them, like it
It's
was,
tough.
because I used to go hiking with them. I used to take them out the
Oh.
trails, did little videos. Like I said, I got like 4 books of the Adventures with Pop Pop.
I
That's the
love that.
series. But so I did these books about all the things we did, and that came about like, oh, this is like 8 years ago now when I did the first book. one of my friends, I'm one of those obnoxious grandparents, the ones that show you pictures all the time. Okay. So one of my friends said, "Hey, all this stuff you keep showing us on Facebook, why don't you just write a book about it?" And I said, "Oh, okay." So I did. But again, so that's one of the things that's the downside of the stroke is not being able to go out on a
Right.
hiking trail somewhere with them. So we still do other stuff, but
Right.
not as much.
So we'll talk about some of your other books as well, but what is your Facebook name? Tell everybody so they could look you up.
Oh, Marty Martin.
Okay.
I'm Marty Martin, author.
Oh,
Marty
author.
Martin, author.
Okay.
Website's martymartin.net. And
Okay.
the email is marty@martymartin.net. So, yeah.
That's so funny. Um, all right. So now talk a little bit now about your other books.
Okay, so I've got I'm basically into fiction. I got this wild imagination, I guess. So I got a series out. It's called Farmerville,
Okay.
farmerville.net. But and it's just a fiction series. Started out as one and turned into a 10-part series. So mystery thriller type thing. And is yeah, so I mean mostly fiction. I've also got well, I got this book, the stroke book, but I also got a leadership book out. And then my first book I did like 10 years ago was a historical fiction. It's called Forgotten Soldiers. It's about a POW type Cold War story. And so I think it's good. So, but it is fiction. I had a few people comment to me, said, "Okay, I thought this was real story." I said, "Well, sorry to disappoint. I just wrote it well enough to be where you thought it was a real story." So,
Wait, I'm going to interrupt you for a quick second. The word fiction. Okay. Tell everyone what the word fiction means in one word.
one word.
Yeah.
Oh, I can think of two words.
Nope.
Not true,
It
but
means fake. If
fake.
you look
Yeah.
it up, the word fiction means fake. So I'm going to share something with you.
Okay. Yeah.
So my whole life, I've always been into like writing. I'm an artist. I loved language arts, all that stuff. And I used to question everything. So as a kid, when I learned that the word fiction means fake and the word non means not, okay, think about that. All right.
Okay.
So whoever made these words are crazy. It shouldn't be not fake, because that's what nonfiction means.
Right.
Not fake. Okay? Fiction is fake, nonfiction is not fake. Okay? It should be fiction should be real, and nonfiction should be not real. Not real makes a lot more sense than not fake.
I can see that.
Okay? So I always
Yep.
laugh at that and I'm like, who did this? But anyway, I had to interrupt you and just say that. Go ahead.
The word guru somewhere back there in
Okay?
history.
So, let me ask you about your first book. So that was about the POW?
Yes.
Okay. What
But,
inspired that? Like, where did you, because even though books are fiction, they pull from some reality, most of them.
okay, so I'm retired. I'm a retired Army guy. I was in the Army 21 years.
There you go.
So, I met a few actual POWs over the years. Um, there was an event in Vietnam called the Sante Raid. I have a chapter in the book about that. But I actually knew a couple of the guys who were the original guys on that raid. So that was some background for me that I already knew about. But as the years pass, people forget. There was a lot of this, the Vietnam era vets coming back. There was a lot of negative stuff. And then there's the POW, and there's all the conspiracy theories and stuff about POW still being there and things like that. And so my hidden agenda writing the book was to keep the memory of POWs alive. Just their memory. I mean, that's just okay. That was a thing. There
Yep.
was a war. There was POWs.
Yep.
And some never came back. What happened to them? That's what the fiction. The fiction part comes into play. Thrown together with a little bit of conspiracy stuff, but um, but the whole purpose was okay. At least okay. Oh, POWs. Okay, just so people can remember them. Don't forget about them. That's why on the cover I have it's actually a POW flag on the cover.
Yep.
the book. So,
Beautiful. And
so it
thank
was
you
my,
for your service. Absolutely.
I enjoyed it.
You know. So now tell us a little bit about the other books again.
Okay, and then the other books, well, I could mention before, I teach college, so I got an MBA and I got a PhD, and
Oh,
and so I wrote a leadership book. That's a nonfiction book. Okay,
gotcha. Not fake. So come
not
on, let's
fake.
talk about it.
So, but in my primary, and then the kids book I mentioned, I got the kids book because I got those, and I got coloring books with them too. So that's Adventures with Pop Pop. So I did, and what inspired me to do those was the grandkids. Um, so I just did that and fiction stuff because I like fiction, and so I kind of like to write stuff that I would like, as hey, if I'm watching some show on Netflix or something, you know, what kind do I like? I like the limited series type shows because they're short, but A to Z in short period. So that's what this Farmerville series is like. It's 10 part, but as Stefan at SNL. I don't even remember. Do you know Stefan at SNL? Remember that character?
Not
Bill
sure.
Hader did the character. His name
Not
is.
sure.
He would talk about it's got everything. Well, so my Farmerville series has everything. So lots of plot twists, lots of twists and turns, and lots of good reviews too. So there's some bad reviews too, but but like the first one has 100 reviews now on Amazon. So like I say, there's lots of twists and turns and plot twists and a little bit of everything. So
Okay. Very cool. And any
uh,
other things you want to say about your books?
and I got one more. I just put out another short one. It's called uh, Lacey Jones is the name. You can find it on the web on my website, martymartin.net. But it's just another short story, fiction.
About?
It's about a girl who finds herself on the side of the road with a gun to her head. And what happens? How'd she get there?
Gotcha.
Short read. Or listen, all my stuff is in audiobooks too. I got them all. Even the stroke book, I got that in audiobook. And a little bit about my weird sense of humor. Um, when you start reading the book, it'll mention in there, oh, by the way, if you're listening to this in audiobook, I'm sorry to disappoint, but I'm not British. I have a British narrator doing the book. So,
That's so funny because I think I mentioned in the beginning, my producer, Ruben Rodriguez from Hamilton
yeah.
Radio and Iron Horse does it audiobooks now, and it had to be my voice to my story. I had
Oh,
to,
yeah.
but this is different than that. But I get it. So cool.
Well, and I did that it was like, stroke is serious,
That's different. Yes.
but at the same time, you've got to have an attitude
Yeah.
and a sense of humor.
No. Yep. Yep. Yep.
And so I try to insert humor anywhere I can, but
Yep.
at the same time, it is a serious topic. But I thought, the narrator, he does interviews like this for all his people. He does books, and he asked me, so why did you ask me to do this? I said, well, again, serious topic, but nothing wrong with a British accent. But
I
I
love
thought
it.
it might add a little levity to
Yeah.
the topic.
I love the accents.
So that's how we did. So that's why I did that. But yeah, all audiobooks.
Very
I
cool.
think audiobooks are great.
Yep. I love it.
What else? What else can we say? Oh, lots of stuff.
Well, I'm gonna read a
I would say
poem.
one thing about the
Oh, go
stroke
ahead.
thing is
No, go ahead.
don't quit. Um, okay, another 1 minute story here about the not quitting thing. So I'm at the rehab hospital now. Okay, they have a therapy gym. They call it a therapy gym where you go in there and they work with you.
Okay.
And I seen this woman walk across the room and head out the door. And I was like, wow, that looks just like Mary Jo. I mean, it's a twin sister. It's got to be. Well, she didn't have a twin sister, but so that night I got in touch with her. I said, hey, were you at the hospital? And she says, yeah, my sister had a stroke. She's there. I said, really? Yeah. So next day I saw her. She stopped by to see her sister every day, in the therapy or at lunch. And we got to talk. And she comes talking. She says, yeah, she's not doing well. She's not handling this at all. Her whole emotion thing was not,
Mm.
um, she just wasn't handling it. And I know, and again, serious topic. You've had a stroke, life has changed, that, devastations happen. Okay. But she wasn't handling it. So the long story short is, um, her sister, she got discharged from the rehab hospital after 3 weeks and got her, and she was in a position where she'd get herself to a assisted living facility.
Okay.
So she got herself over there, but that was it. She didn't follow through with anything as far as therapy, activity, exercise. She had a very bad attitude, and 9 months later, she passed away.
Yeah.
And I asked my Mary Jo about this. I said, "Well, would you be okay with me using this story in the book? This part?" She said, "Oh yeah, people need to know because her sister, she gave up."
Oh,
And so that's the other advice is don't give up. You gotta have the positive attitude. Even though it's bad, uh, you gotta have positive attitude and sense of humor, and don't quit.
right.
Don't give up.
Thank you for sharing that because people need to hear that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's important.
I'd like to read a poem out of my book, which I thought was appropriate for today's show. It's called Balance. And I wrote this for people who struggle, okay? Who struggle mentally, like you're just talking about. All right, guys, so if this is you, please listen. Life is made of choices. We all must pick and choose. We need to be real careful when breaking all the rules. I'm not saying be boring or never to have fun, but try to keep a balance with things that you have done. Sometimes too much of anything may hurt you in the end. Too much food or sex or cash could cost you a good friend. So maintain balance in all you do. Your sanity is up to you. For you to be healthy, it's not just your food. Your thoughts should be stable to control your mood. Your home should be clean so you don't get sick from harmful bacteria that sucks like a tick. Even the people with time you do spend, choose your friends wisely or you will lose in the end. My choices I made from when I was young have surely changed now. My thoughts have now swung. If you're looking to find what the key to life should be, it's all up to you, friend, because you own the key. I had to share that today.
Okay, well now I'm gonna go buy your book. So
I had to share that.
yeah, that's excellent. That's great.
You know, people have to understand something that they have to start looking at things differently, even what they're taught about addiction. Okay, Marty? You're not powerless, not under anything, especially if you have God. Okay? You just give it to God. Listen, look what you did, right? You gave it to God. You were talking to God. You know, unfortunately, a lot of these meeting places, AA, NA, I don't really approve of them, but I'm not telling people who don't have a support system not to go. Okay? If they don't have a support system, they should go. But understand this, you're not powerless because they want to brainwash you into believing you are, and you're not. So I just had to share that. Your mic is off, Marty.
Am I off?
There you go. You're back.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
so, so all right. So we have a few minutes left.
Yeah.
You just gave some really great words of encouragement. But again, if you'd like to tell everyone where they can get your books, or if you'd like to give some more encouragement, or if there's anything you forgot to say, the mic is yours.
All righty. Well, what did I forget to say? There's so much. I have a whole
Right?
book about it if you want to find out. But
What's that book
you know,
called?
there is so much that goes on because, like, so every step is a new adventure. I would say, like, okay, so rehab for 3 weeks is you're in the hospital, and then you're going home. Home's a whole new thing too. I mean, new adjustments. Um,
Hmm.
medications. There's all sorts of things that happen. That one thing that happened to me was went home from the rehab hospital. Next day, I'm getting on a minivan to go to to outpatient therapy. And 2 minutes down the road, I'm all nauseous and everything. I'm like car sick, the whole thing. And so I got the therapy, but I had to come home a few hours later because it just messed my whole day up for 2 days. Turns out it took 2 weeks to find out what the problem was.
Okay.
I was able to ride in the car back and forth the next day. We didn't do the van again, but medication. In the hospital, they had me on like 8 meds in the hospital. They had me on insulin for diabetes, but when I went home, they gave me a pill. Well, the pill was causing the issue. So things like that, you have to pay attention to meds and tell the doctor, hey, this don't feel right or whatever. Medications. Try different, if the doc. Some people with the spasticity I talked about, there's meds for it, but there's more than one. One might not work, the other could. That's another thing. And then gadgets. There's all kinds of gadgets as you progress. Okay, what can we use at home? A bicycle or what? It just depends. There's all kinds of things you can work on. But again, the attitude, support, talk to each other. Like I mentioned, I was in outpatient for 10 months, so met a lot of people there, got a lot of ideas, similar stuff, but the same. And it's emotional sometimes. And, like seeing a grown man cry, because he was able to walk up a set of steps. Because they got steps there in therapy, or that's one of the goals, get up and down those steps. And, there's things like that.
Wow.
And, and the therapy places don't deal with just stroke people, but 80% of people in there are stroke victims. The others are injuries or something totally odd. There was this young 18-year-old girl in there, and everything about her was like stroke. She was paralyzed on one side, and they couldn't figure out what it was. But still, so sometimes you have emotions get you when you see someone young like that, and what they're going through. And I'm sitting at sometimes you share a table when you're doing occupational where you're doing arm and hand stuff, and the therapist said, "Okay, go ahead and stand up. That's that's an exercise." But she'd never been able to do it up to that point. But she did. She stood up at the table, big smile and beaming on her face. But everybody else was too. So everybody you have a lot of emotions. Oh, the emotions. There you go. That's one thing I forgot to mention.
Okay.
It won't be your fault, but your emotions are going wild, and you might have outbursts. Nothing anybody did, but your family might think that's something they did, or they'll get mad at you because you're being all emotional. But hey, you can't control it. Something weird.
Okay.
I'm not a crier, so after I got home, week home, me and my wife were sitting watching a movie, Father Stew. Okay, Mark Wahlberg. All right. And she looks over at me and she says, "Hey, are you crying?" I said, "I guess so." And I mentioned that in the book. I say, of all the movies to be crying at, it's a Mark Wahlberg movie. No disrespect to him,
Right, I get it.
um, but it was a good movie. So the emotions,
Right.
that's something that you have to pay attention to. And other than that, if you want to get any of my books or anything, martymartin.net or survivingthestroke.com. But martymartin.net has it all in there.
Okay.
So, and if you want to email me, if you want, like, I still got codes for a free audiobook for the stroke. If you're in that situation where you need it, you can email me at martymartin.net and mention Jerry here. That way I know where you came from.
So I'm looking you up on Facebook as Marty Martin author, correct?
Author.
Okay. And I see you. Okay.
You got a black and white profile picture. Yeah.
Okay. So there you go. Okay. So I'm going to give you a thumbs up because then I can send you the show here at least. Or I'll say, hey, okay. It's not letting me message you. All right. So the show is on Facebook already, and I
Okay.
texted it to you. So if you can send me some sort of a friend request, then we could connect there. Okay. But guys, listen, I hope you enjoyed listening to this interview with Marty. I hope it brought you some encouragement because here he is. Look at him. He looks amazing, right? And he's smiling and he tells jokes and it's all about the attitude. So if any of you want to reach out to him, go ahead. You could reach out to me. I'll get you in touch with him. Check out his books, please. Marty, thank you so much. This interview
Thank
was
you.
awesome. It really was. You gave me some insight that I needed to hear for some friends and family members. And you're amazing. So I just want to say that to you publicly. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. So, Doc G, take us out.
Ladies and gentlemen, Geri Petito.
I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
When you don't know just what to do.
Just what to do, just what to do.
If what you're feeling is really true.
Is it really true? Is it really true?
Just keep your ideas safe and sound.
Safe and sound, safe and sound.
That's exactly how change is found.
Change is found, change is found. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.